So, welcome to the AI Welfare Seminars. It is a series bringing experts to offer research presentations on AI welfare, consciousness, and moral status. Today, we have the pleasure to host a presentation by Cameron Berg, founder and director of Reciprocal Research.
Fundamentally, what I want to talk to you guys about today is this notion of measuring machine consciousness. This is what Reciprocal exists to help with. This is the delta that we want to assist with closing. And fundamentally, my view and sort of the thesis that Reciprocal is built on is that reducing uncertainty about questions of AI consciousness can be done by using methods that are pretty familiar to cognitive science, some newer, some older. So the three sort of buckets of technical approaches that I want to bring up today are mechanistic interpretability, computational neuroscience, and psychometrics. And I'm going to show you practical results from Reciprocal, some of these published, some of them not. I want to give you guys a bit of a sneak peek of stuff that's going to be coming down the line to show, again, this is not just, a nice thing to say. We can actually do this work and yield experimental results that will hopefully help us move the needle on understanding what on earth is going on inside the systems we're building today. The premise that the research that I'm now taking up and many others in this space are taking up is that we don't have to wait for a completed theory of consciousness. We don't have to solve the hard problem of consciousness in order to make traction and make progress in understanding what is going on inside frontier systems now and in the near future. There's actually, very interestingly, I think as recently as today, a paper released by some folks at DeepMind, kind of entirely sidestepping what I think is hopefully the entire content of this talk and the entire content of what Reciprocal exists to address. It was a high quality piece talking about basically people are going to vehemently disagree about this issue regardless of what the evidence looks like, and we should prepare for that world. I think very fair, but I think that we shouldn't dismiss or completely sidestep the fact that actually we can make progress on this, and it doesn't require us to solve, a 2,000-year philosophical debate in order to do this. We have. Okay, let's go to Bruno.
Hello there. So, I'm Bruno from Brazil. I'm building an operational environment that acts as a cognitive scaffold for language models, basically a functional layer around the model. My question is, alongside current consciousness tests, should we also build richer architectures that give models better conditions for consciousness-related organization to emerge, if it can? For example, long-term memory, persistent identity, self-modeling, valuation, recursive continuity, and so forth. And could standard chatbot architectures, which often steer models away from consciousness claims and treat them as hallucinations, underestimate what might emerge in a different architecture?
Yeah, definitely the answer to the second question is plausibly yes. And yeah, I do think one thing that updated me in the direction of what you're asking in the first question is the indicator approach to operationalization. The fact that, Claude Code is a frontier LLM, but it's a frontier LLM put in a very specific glorified harness. It's not like we're going in and necessarily changing the weights of the system or the architecture of the system. It's changing sort of the cognitive environment at scale over time that the system is operating in. And indeed, given pretty rigorous consciousness theories and operationalizing those theories, it does move around the extent to which we might expect that system to have properties related to consciousness. So if that's true, if that's not, completely a fudged result, then, directionally everything in your question, I think is plausible, that there could be one really interesting example of this that I think, I'm sensing that there are a lot of people in this call who have had a lot of experience engaging with these systems in a long form way. That long form engagement in a context window is itself directionally a small form of what you're talking about. The kind of system that you're talking to psychologically changes over the course of a long thread. There are many people like David Chalmers, for example, who have the sort of thread view of individual identity in these systems and argues that this is actually the sort of relevant psychological or cognitive continuity that these systems have. In other words, as strange as it may sound, starting a chat would be akin to a birth of some kind psychologically, and ending a chat would be akin to a death of some kind. If that's true, then even just long-form interaction with these systems may be qualitatively changing something about the nature of what's taking place. Again, I will, be the sort of annoying scientist insofar as I think this could be true, but the evidence for whether or not it's true is not going to come from having these conversations. We need to do the internals work, any more than like, yeah, engaging with another person isn't going to tell us like deep truths about the internals of how their brains work. We actually really do need neuroscience for that. And so too here. But yeah, I take your point, and I do think these systems are also incredibly novel. And I think a little humility goes a long way in terms of understanding what is possible, what emerges at what scale, what kinds of tools. Memory completely changes the game for what these systems are capable of over time. All of this sort of thing. So yeah, I definitely think that there's something really important in your question, and we need to do the empirical work to settle it.